The Australian government has a secret tool they use to take more of your money every single year. They do it without passing a single new law, without any debate in Parliament, and they're counting on you to not notice. And you feel it, don't you? You get that small pay rise at work, but you feel poorer. The price of groceries, petrol and power just keeps going up, but your ability to pay for it doesn't. You're working harder than ever. You're doing everything right, but you feel like you're going backwards. This is not an accident. It's not just the economy. It's a deliberate system that benefits Canberra directly at your expense. It's a stealth tax, and it has a name they don't want you to understand: bracket creep. And before I show you a real-world example of how they pull it off, you need to see just how the government benefits from the rising cost of living. The sheer scale of this Canberra windfall is staggering. Bracket creep is the government's magic money tree. It allows them to collect billions and billions in extra tax revenue without ever having to face you, the voter, and announce a tax hike. It's politically painless for them, but it is financially crippling for you and your family. And what do they do with this massive windfall they've taken from your pocket? They hire more bureaucrats in Canberra. They waste it on climate consultants and pet projects that you never asked for and that do nothing for this country. They send it overseas in foreign aid, while our own regional towns, our farmers and our small businesses here are struggling to survive. While you are struggling to pay your mortgage or your rent, the government is getting richer off your back, specifically because of inflation. They have zero incentive to fix the cost of living crisis because they directly profit from it. So you've seen the scale of the prize. Billions of dollars flowing directly to Canberra without a single vote.
Well, the reality is it's actually inflation and bracket creep which is doing the main negative impact on household incomes. Bracket creep, in my estimation, this year is worth $50 billion to the government accumulated over the last 4 years. If we had no bracket creep,
which is twice as much as the government has handed out in tax cuts.
Oh well, if we didn't get the tax cut, it would be what, 75 billion. So
she's absolutely right that bracket creep is taking from the pockets of Australians. We've seen a 23% increase in personal income taxes being paid in the last 2 years since Labor's come to power, and that's been a very significant factor in the collapse in disposable incomes, real disposable incomes of Australian households. And this is a remarkable collapse in their incomes, driven by a combination of higher interest rates, higher taxes, and of course higher prices.
And look, before we get into the nuts and bolts, I need to say this. Bracket creep is just one of the ways the system is rigged against you. There are dozens of others. I put out videos like this every week, exposing the tricks and traps hidden in government policies that the mainstream media doesn't talk about. If you believe it's time we had some common sense back in this country, take 1 second to hit that subscribe button below. It's free, and it sends a clear message that these topics matter. Right, let's get back to it. The question is, how do they actually pull it off? How does this trap work in the real world for people like you and me? Let's look at a real world example of the stealth tax. Imagine you're a tradie on the tools. Let's say you earn $44,000 a year. Right now, according to the Australian tax system, you're in a tax bracket where you pay 16 cents for every dollar you earn over the tax-free threshold. It's simple enough. Now, the cost of living is out of control. Inflation is running at, let's be generous and say 5%. You're lucky, and this year your boss does the right thing and gives you a 5% pay rise to help you keep up. That's an extra $2,200 a year. So now you're earning $46,200. You haven't got any more purchasing power. That extra money is immediately swallowed up by the higher price of everything. You can just buy the same amount of groceries as last year. You're not actually richer, you're just treading water. But the taxman in Canberra, he sees that 5% pay rise very, very differently. Because at $45,000, there's a line, a tripwire. Once you earn a single dollar over $45,000, you jump into a whole new tax bracket. Suddenly, the tax rate isn't 16 cents on the dollar anymore, it's 30 cents. That's the trap. Your reward for working hard and keeping up is a bigger tax bill. The government is literally punishing you for the inflation that they helped create. It is a tax increase by stealth, and it punishes hard work, ambition, and loyalty above all else. So you're left poorer, even with a pay rise. Your real take-home pay, after you account for the higher cost of living and the higher tax you're now paying, has gone down. You went to work, you did your job, you got a raise, and you went backwards. Now you might be thinking, this is fundamentally unfair. Surely there's a simple, common sense fix for this. And you're right, there is. It's a simple, honest solution that Australia even once had in place. It's called indexation. It's a straightforward idea. It means tying the tax brackets to the official inflation rate. So if the cost of living goes up by 5% in a year, the tax brackets go up by 5% too. That $45,000 threshold we talked about, under an index system, it would automatically rise to $47,250.
Yes, well, of course, the obvious solution to bracket creep would be to index tax brackets. This is often repeated and it's often quickly dismissed, unfortunately, by politicians who would prefer that sneaky tax increase that they get every year. Now, bracket creep pushes people into higher tax brackets, as you know, gets them paying more tax. Our taxes are growing at about $10 billion a year more than they should if our tax system was holding constant. $10 billion a year of a secret tax increase.
It's honest, it's fair. It protects families and workers from being punished by inflation. So if the solution is so simple and so fair, why won't they do it? There are two reasons, and they both expose the rotten core of modern politics. First is political cowardice. Indexation would force politicians to be honest. If they wanted to spend more of your money, they would have to stand up before an election and announce a tax increase. They would have to look you in the eye and justify it, and they know that's political suicide. Bracket creep allows them to get all the extra money they want without ever leaving their fingerprints on the weapon. It's revenue by stealth, and it saves them from having to make tough decisions. The second reason is even more cynical. It's their addiction to your money. They have built their entire budgets, their promises, their pet projects, their bureaucratic empires, on the assumption that this magic money tree will keep producing fruit. Indexation would turn off the tap. It would force them to live within their means, just like you have to. It would force them to cut waste and be accountable. And that is the last thing they want to do. They even use it against you in a disgusting political game. They let bracket creep steal from you for 2 or 3 years, silently taking more and more. Then right before an election, they announce a tax cut, where they heroically promise to give you back a tiny fraction of what they already took, and they expect you to be grateful for it. It's a national disgrace.
Actually, think about this. We don't talk about this much. What people haven't worked out is that the government has clawed back more in bracket creep through inflation than what they've given out in the tax cuts.
Well, this tax cut this year still doesn't get rid of all the bracket creep. There would have been $31 billion of bracket creep this year, and the tax cut was worth $25. So we've still got $6 billion of bracket creep.
This refusal to adopt a simple, fair solution is the ultimate betrayal. It is the ultimate proof that the entire political establishment is not on your side. They have you trapped in a system that is designed to make them richer and you poorer year after year. So what do? How do you escape a system that's rigged from the very foundation? You have to think differently. You have to look at the board and decide not to play their broken game at all. The real solution isn't about trying to change Canberra. It's about changing your own circumstances on your own terms. That's why the next video you need to watch is right here on the screen. It explains the practical steps you can take to protect your family and your wealth when the country you love is being run into the ground by people who do not care about you.